Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics. I am here with Melissa Mays, resident of Flint, Michigan, one of the leading activists, an extraordinary woman and mother. And I've spoken with you on the ground many times. I'm not there right now, but it's the story that unfortunately keeps giving. So basically, there's been threats of water shutoffs, things like that. It doesn't seem like they have happened in mass yet. I've heard from people they've gotten threats and notices, but public pressure seems to have stymied it a little bit. But now, around 8,000 citizens, including yourself, are being threatened that if you don't pay your water bill, again, can't drink the water still. They say you can with a filter and all this. You're going to get a tax lien on your home. Talk to me about the letter you got and what you know.
Well, actually, some shutoffs have happened. Unfortunately, it's been undocumented residents. And we're fighting right now because nothing was sent to them in Spanish. And when the armed police officer showed up at their door to accompany the city to shut off the water, also didn't speak Spanish. So that's something we're working on right now. Again. And also, yeah, so Friday I got a letter in the mail that looked like another shutoff notice, but when I opened it, it said that if I don't pay $891 by May 19th, they are going to put a tax lien on my home because I owe $2,057 and I back water bill in my water bill because I have not paid since sometime last year when we got our bacterial results and I realized just how bad our water actually is. I mean, we knew it wasn't just lead in the water, even though that's all they're talking about, but the bacteria can kill you. And then we see the released reports that there have been 200 people that have died from bacterial pneumonia, not just 12, from undiagnosed Legionnaires and other issues from the water. So the more we dig into this, the more we find, the worse our water is being proven to be. I don't think it's fair that we pay the highest rates in the United States for the worst quality water. And so I stood my ground. I said, you know what? Fine. If they're going to shut me off, I'll find a way to live off bottled water. I'll just do it. We'll just do this because it's wrong to force us to pay for something that's making us sick. You wouldn't go out to a hitman and give him money to kill you. So why are we doing this? And now it's a different story because now they are talking about, taking my home. I have kids and this is my house. We're standing here. We're staying in Flint. We didn't leave Flint when all this broke out. We're standing here because this is our home, our life, and we're fighting for what's ours. And also, nobody would buy my house anyway, so we couldn't leave. But, the poison water doesn't increase the resale value. But, yeah, so now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so I guess in the next couple weeks, I could skip my mortgage payment, skip my car payment, not buy my son the nice suit he deserves for his high school graduation, which is great, to be able to pay for this poison. So that way they don't take my poison water house. So that's awesome.
So, I remember like when I was growing up in Long Island, probably more economically middle class than Flint is these days. If you were out to dinner with like your family and let's say there was like, I don't know, like a piece of hair in the food or something untoward, they would, apologize. Oh my gosh. And like, give you a free meal or take money off the bill, this and that. So that happens like in daily life if they screw something up, this and that. But in Flint, if you're poisoned, I remember at the town hall I covered, the only national media there, as far as I know, where they arrested 6 people for no reason. You have a water person on the panel saying, honor thy neighbor. You are part of the problem. If you don't pay your water bill, the thing goes off onto other people. You would not be hearing this kind of lack of empathy or self-awareness if it was Ann Arbor or other places. How is it that these officials, in a very extraordinary circumstance, are treating it almost like, oh, you're just a normal delinquent on your water bill?
Yeah, you're just a jerk. You're just a jerk for not paying your bill, and now your neighbor is going to pay higher rates. I went off on Rich Baird for saying that. That's Snyder's right-hand man who said that, and he said it before at other town halls, saying, oh, 2/3 of you aren't paying, so how about the other 1/3? How do you feel about picking up the tab for them? And that's not the way it works. We all know how our water bills work, and we all know that we're paying for the fact that half of our treated water, once it leaves the plant, is being lost into the ground through main breaks, line leaks, and all of the mess that's happened to our infrastructure. We're not stupid, and you really need to stop stop trying to treat us like we're stupid and try to pit the poor against the poor. Because on top of all that, even if we weren't standing our ground saying, hey, we shouldn't have to pay for what's killing us, we pay 8 times the national average. In a city that lives 41% at or below the poverty line, we pay the highest rates in the United States for water we cannot safely use. Yeah, so that's another issue. So even if you wanted to pay your water bill, a lot of people cannot. And it's absolutely wrong because, again, they're commoditizing our poison water. Not just the water in general, but they're using it as they called it a windfall, because look how many people are paying their shutoff notices. Look how much money they're getting in. Now, on the city side, the state decided, because somebody told the state of Michigan that the lead was better in the water. Of course, let's not talk about the bacteria or the other cancer-causing byproducts or the chloroform, but told them that, hey, the lead's better, so you don't have to worry about this anymore. So in February, the state gave the city 2 weeks notice saying, you know, that $1.2 million that we're paying to pay for the Detroit water that you had to switch back to because we screwed up your water, we're just not going to pay that anymore. And the 65% credit that's been going on the residents' water bills for just under a year, we're not going to pay that anymore either, because the 90th parts per billion of lead is now 12 instead of 15. So, you know, it's all better. Yeah. It's all fine. It's still dangerous.
I don't believe those numbers, by the way. I think it's bullshit.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I blasted them on it. They tried saying yesterday that they're still below federal limits. First of all, the only limit that is okay is 0. It's the only safe level. Second of all, they're doing the water testing while it's cold. And everybody knows that when you test cold water, you know, with cold weather, all the contaminants are lower. So I can't wait to see what happens when it heats back up. And also, they weren't telling the truth, because I have neighbors that got their water tested from their kitchen tap, and their lead is the highest it's ever been.
Well, and it's also, they're not telling how many homes were tested, what parts of Flint. Is it the newer homes, weaker homes? Where are you testing it? Is it just from the sink? Are you testing the water heaters? Are you testing at the meter? How long do you have the water running before you take the sample? I'm not a scientist, but I've learned a few things in East Chicago and Flint. These are all could make a huge difference between 7 parts per billion and 775 or 7, worse. So the letter which you got and you sent me is from the city of Flint Treasury. So people would say, oh, the mayor can do something here. But really, this is coming, at the end of the day, from up high, Snyder.
Yes. If you look at the minutes from the Receivership Transition Advisory Board, which is the arm of the state that makes every final decision in Flint, they talked about sending these letters out and the shutoffs at their last meeting. So this is their decision being made. What people need to understand is ever since 2011, our state government has been running every decision in our city. And yes, we have problems with our city council and our mayor. Nothing is perfect. But at the end of the day, they don't have the authority to do these things. Our mayor did put out a statement.
Not to interrupt you, but going to that timeline, 2011, Rick Snyder assumed office, and in 2011, what you just said, the receivership basically took over.
Yes, they stripped. He decided to fix a bottom line problem because Flint was struggling, and obviously because industry bailed on us and left us with a shrinking tax base because there's no jobs, everything's falling apart, and then also the governor stopped the revenue sharing, which was really helping Detroit and Flint. 2011, he decided to cut that off too because who needs
revenue sharing from what?
So what it is basically everybody pays their taxes into a big pot. Bills are paid out, and what's left is divided up amongst the cities that need the help the most, which would be Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, basically your post-industrial cities that are struggling to try to revitalize themselves. Well, the governor came in and said, nah, we're going to go ahead and give those tax breaks to all my wealthy friends and corporations, so there's no extra money, and we're going to go ahead and cut off revenue sharing, and then we're going to put you underneath an uneducated, appointed official that only answers to him. And this official makes every single decision in your city. They strip democracy completely away from your elected officials, so you have no voice. So we've had no voice since 2011. 2014, our water gets switched and we get poisoned. 2017, we're still in the same situation. Yes, we put in a new mayor who declared a state of emergency, and yes, she's spoken out and done this and that, but at the end of the day, the decisions are made by the state of Michigan, and that's what we are stuck with. We have a transformation manager now, too, which is Richard Baird, which is Governor Snyder's right-hand man. They actually went to college together, so how nice is that? So that's who's making it. He's the one that made the decisions to cut off the water credits and the water subsidies. So now part of me is like, I'm not paying this, except I want to save my house. But on the other hand, I'm also like, well, because the state signed the contract in 2013 for us to be put on the KWA, and they signed the contract to put us back on Detroit and decided to stop subsidizing that, Flint, which is broke, is now paying 2 water sources. So I don't want my city to go back under complete emergency management. I don't want it to go under bankruptcy, because then the state has control for 30 years like they do over Detroit. But on the other hand, why do the residents have to pay for the state's screw-ups? The state's the one that did all this to us. But why can they get away with not paying for the water, but we have to? But why can they do this?
But this is akin to President Trump, who's obviously not intelligent himself, wanting to examine all the money we've spent in Iraq and Afghanistan and have a review of all our military spending, and bringing in as the chief advisor to analyze it George W. Bush. So why in the world is Governor Rick Snyder, I know he's the governor still, but why does he have a transformation manager involved with this? And also, Flint has got $100 million from Congress. It was originally 170, now it's 100 million. You were a plaintiff on this lawsuit. Now there's 97 million specifically to change pipes. So there's been relief money to Flint. Why isn't some of that money going to, unfortunately, pay for toxic unpaid water bills so the citizens don't have to, pay for medical coverage? I mean, I did a town hall. I've been at other town halls. People just think, oh yeah, their bills are paid, but people are scraping with their fingernails to get Medicaid, Medicare to cover things. Why is it like tax liens being put on homes when there should be relief money allotted to that? Where is the money going to?
The money is still in state government. It has not been sent to Flint yet. The Republicans in our state house decided to try to put an attachment for Fraser. There's a sinkhole down there. So they tried to put a bill on for them and a grant on for them. And then they went on Easter break for 3 weeks. So the money's just still hanging out in Lansing while we're still sitting here in Flint going, hey. And as for the lawsuit money, last I heard, the money hasn't even been sent to Flint yet. And it's been over a month since it was signed. So still just chilling in Lansing. That's great.
For those that don't know, when you say the receivership transition board, basically Flint was put into receivership by Snyder in 2011, was it?
Yes.
Which brought in the emergency manager.
Yes.
So if there's no longer an emergency manager, why is there still a receivership transition authority board?
Because the state feels we can't make our own decisions, because they've been so great at making decisions for us. I mean, that's why we're all poisoned. Again, people keep blaming our local officials for making the water switch. No. Look at it. The state made every single decision, because even if they did, even if the city council was like, yeah, let's switch the water, they couldn't get the okay. You'd have to go through the state. And that's where we're still at. The state is still making sure that our mayor and our city council can make big girl and big boy decisions. And they're the ones that at the end of the day make every single sign off, especially when it comes to finances like shut off notices and tax liens.
So basically, whether you like Mayor Weaver, whether you don't, right now there's like effort for recall. It doesn't even matter if you recall her, because essentially the mayor's not going to be making the decisions anyway. Correct?
Yeah. No, because at the end of the day, any decisions she puts forth has to go through city council, which then again has to go through the RTAB, the receivership which is the state. So the state still has the stamp at the end of the day to veto or approve whatever's happening, change it, all that great stuff. So the state is still in control of our recovery, which is why we don't have one, which is why we are 1,105 days into our disaster, and it's not getting better.
You see, okay, so I'm pretty straight up. So Flint, it's not the most educated area. So unfortunately, you only have, when I come out, you see like the same 50 to 100 activists, residents at the same things. People complain, more people aren't out there. Some of it is struggle, people working 2 to 3 jobs, don't have the time. And some of it's education, people don't know what the hell's going on. But to an educated person, it's very clear, like there is no democracy right now.
None.
In Michigan. Voters vote for a mayor or city council, but it seems like they're just puppets hanging out. So is this like known among the wider public there? Because the viewers watching are going to be like, holy shit, like we got a we got to send in some progressive troops to Flint and rally some protests. But it seems like a lot of the residents don't know what's going on.
Well, when you have the state of Michigan saying that everything's fine, and you have a traumatized community that's gone through this for 3 years, and all we desperately want is to be fine, we want to be safe, and you have these people with letters after their names telling you that it's fine, trust us, it's fine, then people say, okay, I want my life back to normal. I trust you. You are smarter than me. You are a professor. You are a scientist. I trust you. So the people that are standing out there in the streets say, nope, we trusted you to begin with and you poisoned my kids. The damage is permanent. I will no longer trust you. You give me the science. And the funny thing is every time we ask for like the detailed lab reports or how they're doing their testing or to follow them while they're doing their testing or be involved, you get called all sorts of names and they talk to you like you're stupid. And they're like, well, you couldn't possibly understand this. And the information is going to confuse you and upset you. Oh, thanks. Good. That's great. But you still can't answer my question, so I think you're the ones that's confused. So yeah, they think that we're stupid. They tell us that everything is fine, and for the people who desperately want it to be fine, that's what they're going to hang on to. So it's ridiculous.
So what are the next steps for you and the thousands of other people that have gotten tax liens? Can you contest it? If you don't pay it, do you face evictions? What's the steps?
Yeah, so I called Attorney Val Washington, who is the one that sued the city because the emergency manager had illegally raised, and the former mayor had illegally raised the water rates. And there were 16,000 people at that point in time that had lost their homes in a short amount of time from, I think, 2011 or 12 to 2014. They had lost their homes because of these tax liens. So 16,000 people. And so he sued, and he won. Those people don't get their houses back. Nothing really changed or happened. The water rates were supposed to be lowered, but then what they did was they just increased the service fees. So that didn't even out. So that aside, I called him and he told me, Melissa, there's nothing that you can do. You have to pay it or they will put a lien on your house, which then it'll go to your mortgage company. And yeah, they could actually auction your home off in a tax auction for my $2,057 water bill. You've seen my house.
Yeah. Well, if I was a cynic and thought, a lot of these responses or non-responses to the Flint crisis smell of a state and state government wanting to gentrify and kick poor people out of Flint.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. So if the threat to shut them off isn't going to scare them and make them move out, we're just going to make them homeless for not paying for poison. There you go. We'll take their house and then we'll knock it down and turn it into a cute little park. So, get these developers in here, and then we don't even have to replace their service lines, because if the homes are abandoned, they don't have to replace the service lines. Nice.
Unfortunately, this doesn't shock me anymore because it's just all I cover. But I'll stay on it. We'll keep in touch, and I'll look into more of this. Thank you for taking the time, and don't drink the water.